Of all the aspects of A Song of Ice and Fire, there are few story elements more nefarious than the Weirwoods. Acting as idols for the old gods of the north, the Weirwoods are surrounded in dark prophecy, vision, and human sacrifice. In today's video, I will be going over how the Weirwoods resemble various fungi from our own world while also exploring the other fungal hive minds of A Song of Ice and Fire. There are many theories surrounding the Weirwoods, but the one I like the most is the hive mind interpretation. For those of you new to this theory, the hive mind interpretation is the idea that the Weirwoods are not some otherworldly routers to a vague and nebulous group of old gods, but a single massive entity lurking below Westeros that holds the souls of the dead. Through the use of telepathy, the Weirwoods, or potentially their master, Bloodraven or maybe time-traveling Bran, can manipulate events across the continent and timeline. This is backed up by Martin's story, A Song for Leah. In the tale, we read of the Grishka, a massive hive mind entity living under the planet Shkeen. The Shkeen, at middle age, place a blotch of the Grishka on their foreheads, giving them the slight telepathic ability and a taste of the Grishka's offer, eternal love. When the Shkeen reach the proper age, they enter the Grishka and are absorbed, their consciousness residing within. One of the main characters, a telepath, touches the mind of the Grishka and is overwhelmed with feelings of love and contentedness to the point where he passes out. The Grishka is really creepy and more than likely uses these mechanisms to attract and digest prey like a Venus flytrap. Either way, the Grishka is mirrored heavily in A Song of Ice and Fire. The end goal of the Weirwoods is largely unknown, and how do they actually work? If the Weirwoods are a large living entity and that entity is hungry, then it must be trying to feed. I believe that in the end of the story, we will see a newly crowned King Bran take control of the Seven Kingdoms. His rule will be largely peaceful, but using the Weirwoods, he will be able to squash and quell any rebellion. Through this, he should have a steady stream of political prisoners destined for sacrifice at the base of Weirwoods. The hive mind theory is accepted by many, but I would like to examine it under the lens of mycology. In our own world, there are a few examples of massive creatures lurking below us. In 1998, scientists determined that residing in the Blue Mountains of Oregon is the largest living creature known to humanity. Extending in the range of 3 to 4 square miles, the Armillaria ostoii is a massive network of fungus believed to be between 2 and 3,000 years old. Now, when I say fungus, most people immediately think of mushrooms. However, mushrooms are more analogous to a foot or an arm of a fungus with the actual creature living below. The Armillaria ostoii is composed of mycelium, making up the mycorrhizal network running under the forest floor like a giant root system. Mycelium is a lot more complicated than the average plant root, however. In many instances, mycelium works in a symbiotic relationship with the plants it lives around. Mycelium can grow between the cells of plant roots, allowing for an exchange of resources and information between them. As you can see here, the cells of this root that are pink have been colonized by fungal cells. When a plant needs more nutrients or water, for example, it can signal this to the mycelium. The mycelium can then channel the desired resources to the root in exchange for sugar. In some instances, mycelium can even divert resources from one plant to another. Essentially, mycelium acts as a massive nexus of informational exchange between plants, almost like a mushroom internet. The term Wood Wide Web was coined by Dr. Suzanne Simard, and I highly recommend you watch her TED Talk, How Trees Talk to Each Other, if you want to know more about this. These types of fungus exist across the world in various sizes and structures. As of 2022, humanity knows of around 144,000 different species of fungi, each capable of producing some form of mycelium. In the end, I believe the Weirwood network to function similarly to these mycorrhizal systems. The Weirwoods stretch across Westeros. Most plant species have many variants or breeds. For example, genus Acer, or maple trees, is comprised of 128 different species. If all weirwoods are the same, this would indicate that they are grown from the same root or mycorrhizal network. When a fungus wishes to reproduce, it grows a mushroom. The mushroom then develops spores, which are in turn released as its cap unfolds. Thus, as the weirwoods need to feed, their root system may also shoot up trees to attract individuals to them. In Bloodraven's cave, he is literally grown into the weirwood roots, just like the mycelium can grow into the cells of plant roots.
Roots coiled around his legs like wooden serpents. One burrowed through his breeches into the desiccated flesh of his thigh to emerge again from his shoulder. A spray of dark red leaves sprouted from his skull, and grey mushrooms spotted his brow. A little skin remained stretched across his face, tight and hard as white leather. But even that was fraying, and here and there the brown and yellow bone beneath was poking through.
However, nothing evolves in isolation. Although Ice and Fire is just a story, I do believe that Martin has put extensive thought into the Weirwoods and their network. As they may be the key to defeating the others, he hopefully has their place in the story figured out. And because of this, I believe there to be other hive minds lurking around the world of Ice and Fire. In Essos, we read of evening trees and ghost grass. The evening trees are an almost exact inverse of weirwoods, having blue leaves and black trunks. From them, the warlocks of Karth brew the shade of the evening tea used to give visions. Although we know little of the evening trees, they do grow around the House of the Undying.
Long and low, without towers or windows, it coiled like a stone serpent through a grove of black-barked trees, whose inky blue leaves made the stuff of the sorceress drink the Kartheen called Shade of the Evening.
This is where our first parallel comes into play. In the far north of Westeros, we find Bloodraven's cave. Here, underneath a gargantuan weirwood, Bran is being taught to be a tree wizard. Within the cave live the remnants of the Children of the Forest. In the House of the Undying live the Warlocks of Karth. In each instance, we have a group of people living in a cave-like structure near these trees. And in each instance, both groups receive and dole out visions and prophecy. Lastly, in the far, far east, in the Shadowlands beyond Shai, we hear of the Ghost Grass. Foretold in the Dothraki prophecy,
Down in the Shadowlands beyond Ashai, they say there are oceans of ghost grass, taller than a man on horseback with stalks as pale as milk glass. It murders all other grass and glows in the dark with the spirits of the damned. The Dothraki claim that someday ghost grass will cover the entire world, and then all life will end.
Ghostgrass is not specifically linked to dreams or visions, but does have a lot of the qualities surrounding both the Weirwoods and the Evening Trees. When looking at this from a mycological perspective, the concept of a massive entity spreading is clear here. The ghostgrass itself heavily resembles the mycelium filaments or even the fungus Clavaria fragilis, commonly known as fairy fingers. Although fungi do live in harmony with the plants and animals living around it, fungi acts as the main source of decay in our world. When anything dies, typically fungi is the lead source for the decomposition of that thing. And it appears the ghostgrass may just be another fungal hive mind living in the world. And through all these entities, characters receive visions. For thousands of years, humans have been using various fungi and religious practices aimed at connecting deeper with spiritual worlds. The Mazatec tribe, native to Oaxaca, Mexico, used psilocybin mushrooms, specifically Psilocybe mexicana, in both healing ceremonies and religious practices. In the ceremony known as veladas, a Mazatec shaman will administer psilocybin mushrooms to an individual or group of individuals seeking spiritual healing, insight, or to resolve conflicts. Contained within the ritual are various prayers, chants, and rites that can lead to insight and even visions. As we will see, across the world of Ice and Fire, there are many instances of psychedelic rituals. Back in Westeros, we read of weirwood paste, a hallucinogenic substance derived from weirwood seeds, and maybe Jojen. In A Dance with Dragons, the Children of the Forest feed it to Bran. From here, Bran proceeds to be transported back in time to the youth of his father, peering through the eyes of the Weirwood located in the Godswood at Winterfell. In this instance, the paste is used to link Bran to the Weirwood network and give him access to the information it holds. This is greatly paralleled with the evening trees. With the shade of the evening comes intense hallucinogenic effects. An individual experiences an incredibly psychedelic high full of strange images and visions. In the story, Dany drinks the Shade of the Evening at the end of A Clash of Kings before entering the House of the Undying, and has a vision of a blue and rotting heart, and she receives her infamous betrayal prophecy.
Upon it rested a slender crystal glass filled with a thick blue liquid, Shade of the Evening, the wine of warlocks. "Take and drink," urged Pyat Pri.
We also see a vision of Aeron Damphair in the Forsaken chapter as a result of the tea.
Impaled upon the longer spikes were the bodies of the gods. The maiden was there, and the father and the mother, the warrior and crone and smith, even the stranger. They hung side by side with all manner of queer foreign gods, the great shepherd and the black goat, three-headed trios and the pale child Bacalon, the Lord of Light, and the butterfly god of Nath.
Overall, the hallucinogenic effects of both the Weirwoods and Evening Trees gives an immense amount of credence to the mushroom theory, but what about Ghostgrass? Ghostgrass has almost no connection to vision that we know of. However, within Ice and Fire, centers of magic seem to be surrounded by these fungal hive minds. I already mentioned the House of the Undying and Bloodraven's Cave, but one of the most magical places in the world is Ashai by the Shadow. Already, we know that the ghostgrass grows near Ashai, so although we know very little of the plant, it would make sense that it would influence the minds and visions of those within the city. Are the Weirwoods, Evening Trees, and Ghostgrass giant mycorrhizal networks? No, probably not. Is that a question that would even be answered? Absolutely not. But in the end, I think it is fun to draw parallels between A Song of Ice and Fire and the real world. And clearly, Martin consciously or subconsciously was influenced by these mycorrhizal networks. And I hope that even if you think this theory is BS, you learned something cool about mushrooms. Thank you so much. Please subscribe if you'd like to see more content like this, and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!